Hey, college wrestling fans, it's Johnny Thompson, number one here. And our guest today, talk about a long list of credentials and accomplishments. We're talking success at the high school level, at the collegiate level. He has also had success at the mixed martial arts level, and he also has success in Hollywood. Please welcome to the show, Curran Jacobs.
Thank you, brother.
Well, Curran, the first question I have for you today is, you had a lot of success in wrestling. You made the state finals in the state of Michigan. You went on to have a successful career at Michigan State. You were one match away from being an All-American your senior year. How has the sport of wrestling helped you succeed in all of these other areas?
Mental toughness. And with that, the discipline and consistency that it takes to get things done, the drilling. It's a dogfight in the wrestling room every single day. I loved it and I hated it at the same time while it was going on. It's a grind, man. People don't get it, especially when I was a Spartan, that Division I level, just the work, the 3 days you're pulling, and that set me up, for afterwards, for dealing with life when it comes to losses, especially. I've had a couple huge losses, like you said, one match away from state champ, one match away from being an All-American. And I was just telling my 11-year-old son, I was like, those burn forever, but they fuel you. They fuel you to move forward and keep trying new things and have the courage to keep failing and to keep growing. Wrestling saved my life, man. I love it so much.
And here's something that I've been following the sport of wrestling for 33 years, and you're one of the only people that I even know, besides myself, because I was as well. You were a theater major in college,
Yep.
and we're talking about success in wrestling. You got the lead role in A Streetcar Named Desire. Talk a little bit about that.
Oh, man, still to this day, one of the best experiences of my life. Um, Especially within the realm of theater. It was phenomenal. As you know, that was the role that made Marlon Brando like redefine cinema. Before Marlon Brando came to the scene as Stanley Kowalski, people were theatrical and loud, and he brought that naturalistic approach for the first time. So there was some pressure, but I had a phenomenal director, Rob Rosnowski, still involved at MSU. He was my professor and the director of that show, and we actually we got to take a trip down to New Orleans, where it was based, and do some character work there, do some method stuff, and it was just incredible, man. I had so much fun. It was so much fun because there's a couple fight scenes in the play too, and I got to use my wrestling and like acrobats and fight choreography, which was sweet. It was one of the best times, man. I'm so grateful for that opportunity.
So I got to ask you here, out of pure curiosity. So when you were doing theater, I want to know, how do guys like Coach Tom Minkle, Nick Simmons, trying to think who else you would have been on the team with, how did they respond to your theater? And then how does the theater people respond to your wrestling career?
So it was an anomaly for both groups. You're going with these wrestlers that like Coach Minkle and some teammates, and even Coach Williams and his wife would go and watch every single one of my shows, man. I was very blessed. I did not know this, but Coach Minkle actually toured with his wife in a band back in the 70s. I swear to you. And he was like a rock star, man. Like he was playing with oh no, his name just went right out. Little Richard, showing me photos of him in those big old white coats with the drapes, and he was legit. So he had a lot of love and respect for the art. So he was very cool about it. I had some teammates who would give me crap about it, Uh, but on the theater end, I've always had a lot of energy and I'm very movement based, and it made a few people a little nervous. They weren't quite used to such chaotic energy, and it's like almost like what we do for warm-ups in the practice room every day. And I was just, shadow wrestling stuff, and some people were like, what is he doing? So yeah, on both ends they were like, man, you're crazy.
You've had some success in films as an actor. You've been in four full-length feature films. You got into act beside some pretty big names. We're talking Trace Adkins, country music legend, Donnie Most, which a lot of people grew up watching Happy Days, so we all know Donnie Most. What's it been like, sharing the stage with these types of talents?
It was incredible. I wasn't able to meet Trace. He did some voiceover. I did get to work with Don Most in person in Man's Best Friend. And it was unbelievable, man. It was a surreal experience. My dad's going to be 80. So growing up, and he was a greaser. So growing up, like Happy Days hit a little different. Uh, yeah, my dad, as most guys is my age, grandfathers. But it hit different, man. And getting to talk with him and listen to a guy like that who had such like a once in a lifetime experience going on a show like that with the Fonz and one of the all time greats, Ron Howard. It was just unbelievable, man. It was another one of those special moments. It just takes your freaking breath away.
Now, you were also on an episode of Modern Family with Ed O'Neill, and you kind of got to know Ed a little bit. Even got to take him into the room and show him some wrestling moves. What was it like befriending Ed O'Neill and working with him?
That whole thing, how that happened, Modern Family, was wild. I was volunteer coaching for the Pacific Palisades, and oh man, that makes me sad. It just burnt down, that historic high school that it was shot in, just burnt down in the LA fires. That made me so, so sad. What a legendary spot. Yeah, the whole thing was devastating, but I was volunteer coaching for them, and the producers came in and were like, "Oh, guys, hey, like, you want to be a part of this?" And like, heck yeah, we want to be a part of this. And I got to choreograph the wrestling match. And that is what really got Ed's attention. He's a black belt. One of his proudest achievements is achieving his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he just came up to me, and we hit it off right there, man. He's a fellow grappling enthusiast. And we'd be training. We were going to exchange numbers and actually train together. But as soon as all the extras, everything was called, they swarmed him, brother. And he shot through the gym and disappeared. And that experience was so much fun. And what a great guy. That guy would whoop some butt. Al Bundy is for real. I'll just say that about Mr. O'Neill.
We need to change that football story of his that, you ever heard that one before? I can't even recite it, but you need to change it and make it into a wrestling story somehow. So
it could be.
Yeah. Not only have you had success as an actor, you've also had success as a writer as well. You wrote For the Love of Catch about Catch as Catch Can Wrestling. What was it like writing for the screen? And furthermore, your writing partner was the legendary Mike Chapman, who probably is the most well-known historian on the sport of wrestling in the entire world, let alone the United States. What was it like writing for the screen and then also working with him as your screenplay writing partner?
It wouldn't have happened without Mike Chapman. I love that man to death. I met him through Randy Couture, who was a very good friend and mentor of mine, back in 2012, and we hit it off. And he was the reason why, because I went from wrestling at Michigan State University right into competing in catch wrestling because of Mike Chapman. That man can just hold thousands of people's attention if you get him going on a microphone. He is captivating when he tells history. It's not just a history lesson. It's a passionate storytelling interweaved with facts, and he blew my mind. So to write that film with Mike was honestly, it's one of my greatest life's honors. He's such a special man, creator of the Dan Hodge Trophy. Um, just he's a staple in the sport of in the history of wrestling. Period. Um, and in the movie, for the love of catching the end, he actually surprised me when we were standing in front of Frank Gotch's mausoleum, and he handed me his book and said that he was passing the torch to me. When he did that, we worked our butts off in the editing room to make sure that that was the best film that it could possibly be, because when he handed me that torch, I wanted to make him proud. And the first time he watched it, I was with him in his home. And he turned to me, and it gives me goosebumps, man. He was on the verge of crying, kept having to take his glasses off and rub them on his shirt. And he just kept shaking his head, and he was like, "Curran, this is terrific." So we did it justice and made him proud, man. It's a very special project.
So we've talked a lot about your success as a wrestler, your success as an actor, your success as a writer. The world also knows you as Curran, the Giant Slayer. So talk a little bit about your success in the world of MMA.
I had a good run, man. I had a good run. And I'd be lying if I said that I don't think about getting back into it. It is very hard. COVID threw me off. I was a week away from my second pro fight. The next 6 fights were canceled. Next 6 fights. It was so crazy. Unless you were in the UFC, on Fight Island, you weren't fighting. And I wasn't quite in that UFC. I was on the way, but wasn't in there. But my teammates, man, I'm very proud of them. They both just recently had a couple tough losses. Joaquin Buckley just fought Kamaru Usman. And I loved it, man. I was really rooting for him, but he said it best. Kamaru's on a different level. But Buckley will be back. And then Chaos Williams, of course. He just had a tough loss in the UFC. What it did for me, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, brother, is it has humbled me tremendously. And I just don't take any moment for granted. Kind to everybody in an empty cup, man. And I'm just trying to enjoy those moments and be grateful.
I want to go back to theater and film for just a second here, Curran. How do you feel that the sport of wrestling could lend itself to be more friendly to theater and film? How can we use these mediums to help our sport grow in terms of popularity?
That's a great question, man. It's the same problem that these catch wrestling guys who are trying to promote catch shows and get it out there. Jake Shannon is still to this day really trying to make shows and get them out there. Josh LeDuc was down in Florida, and it's tough because we have the UFC. It's very tough. The only thing to rival the UFC in terms of violence is bare knuckle boxing, which is, again, as age old as catch wrestling itself. I think what killed the legitimate sport back before World War I, when catch wrestling was real, was the fact that audiences just got bored. Because as a wrestler, you're looking at techniques and you're loving the just the beauty and everything that comes with how in shape you've got to be and how strong you've got to be. But at the end of the day, people want violence, and they want they want to see knockouts. They want to see, so I think, it's going to be an uphill battle. Did you hear this, or am I crazy that Hulk Hogan himself was Am I crazy? Is he coming
No,
out
you're
with
not.
something?
Hey, man, you're throwing me for a loop here. The Real American freestyle stuff was really kind of threw me off completely. It's like I'm suddenly, online one day and I get a couple of messages and they're like, did Hulk Hogan wrestle in high school? And I was like, here's the story of Hulk Hogan. I'll tell you Hulk Hogan right now because I was told this personally by a guy named Mike Graham, who unfortunately is no longer with us. Mike died years ago. But Mike Graham told me that, you see, the Grahams were really big into high school and college wrestling. Matter of fact, Mike's dad, I can't think of his name right now, but he ran a professional wrestling organization down in Florida called Championship Wrestling from Florida. And every year they gave a scholarship to the University of Tampa, which I don't know for sure, but I think maybe Fletcher Carr was one of the recipients of that scholarship they gave to Tampa every year. And they personally paid for the building of the University of Florida's wrestling room when Florida got wrestling back in the 1969-1970 season. He told me that they were aware of Terry Bollea, which is Hulk Hogan's real name. They said they were
Right.
aware of him, and they knew he was really big into pro wrestling. Like they knew he wanted to be a pro wrestler someday. So they approached him and tried to get him to go out for high school wrestling, but he was too involved in, just being a product of the '70s. He was a bass player in a band, stuff like that. So Hogan never did, but Eric Bischoff did wrestle in high school. And another, this is me interviewing you, but I'll make this quick. Eric,
No, man.
yeah, the Eric Bischoff, when he was in high school, one of the ways how he got involved in pro wrestling is his high school wrestled against Kurt Hennig's high school. So I can't think of what Kurt's brother's name is right now because you put me on the spot. But Kurt's brother wrestled Eric Bischoff in the duel. And just, I don't know if he pinned him or teched him. He beat him up pretty bad. Eric's talked
Nice.
a couple times, got beat up pretty bad by Kurt Hennig's brother. And then he kind of got to know Larry, the Axe, who was wrestling for the American Wrestling Association. So it's not completely out of the blue. Eric does kind of have a background in amateur wrestling. He wrestled all 4 years of high school. I've actually tried getting Eric on JT1 Wrestle interviews. He hasn't responded back to me yet, but so it's not completely out of nowhere. But yeah, it's just funny. You would have thought, like looking at the Real American freestyle wrestling, you would have thought that they would have kind of gone after more people with kind of like a stronger background, like maybe Scott Steiner, University of Michigan, but Hulk Hogan's a extremely probably the most popular pro wrestler of all time.
Oh,
So I mean,
yeah, for sure.
you got that going there too, but I'm anxious to see how it does. I'm one of those people I don't ever want to be negative. I hate being pessimistic, but I also feel that it too is an uphill battle for terms
Yeah.
of popularity and growth. So I
Yep.
wish them the best, and I really hope that it works out. Personally, I think they made some decisions that they could have made better decisions than what they did, but these are the decisions they made. So let's back them up and let's hope it turns out to be a very positive thing for our sport.
For sure, man. Anytime anybody, and I don't care who it is trying to create the next NFL for wrestlers, I am all for it. We don't have an NFL. Our NFL is mixed martial arts. If you don't want to go that route, the Olympics. But I know they tried the Real Pro Wrestling. Remember that back in
Yeah,
the day? Real RPW, Real Pro Wrestling, where
yeah,
yeah, man, and they did that kind of cool. They did the same thing, interviews, the run out to the mat, the smoke, the lights.
yeah.
Yeah, I hope something catches on, pun intended.
Yeah, me too, man. I sure hope so too. I really like that RPW. I'm not sure what went wrong there. I went to one event and I got to watch Doug Schwab and Chris Bono nearly come to blows. So that was kind of fun. But you know to,
Heck
to
yeah.
to wrap up this interview, the last thing I want to ask you, Curran, is are there any upcoming films or anything else of that nature, television shows that we can look forward to seeing you in the future?
Yes. I was just in one recently called Rom-Coms Must Die. And I believe that's going to be in Tubi. Yeah, it's a wild, wacky horror comedy, man. It's going to be a wallop of fun. That's going to be coming out this fall or at the start of next year. I'm not quite sure. And then I got an audition upcoming for a very interesting faith film that ties in with the whole AI discussion. So that's really exciting. And I'm trying to get one up off the ground as we speak. So there's a lot of stuff going on, man. I got a lot cooking up. I'm in the kitchen.
It begs the question in this horror film that you're in, are you the protagonist or the antagonist?
So I am. I'll tell you right now. Quick premise, okay? I am an actor thinking that I just auditioned and got on this amazing new show with these two old time legends and soap operas. And come to find out, I got hired by two maniacal killers who are angry filmmakers and hating on romantic comedies because it pretty much messed their careers up.
Man,
It's wonky fun. So it's Saw meets Squid Games almost.
it sounds
It's
awesome.
wild. I'm telling you. Yeah. It's gonna be out of control. So I'll be sure to share those updates on my social medias.
All right, man. Well, on behalf of JT1Wrestle, I want to thank you once again for being a part of our program today. And we wish you the best of success in wrestling, MMA, theater, film, all these different things you do, and of course, in life in general. Thanks again for being a part of the program today, Curran.
You are the man. Thanks for having me, brother.